Back to the town hall now, and as advertised, some good news for the economy across the country on two fronts. First, the weekly unemployment report. First-time claims were down last week to the lowest level of the pandemic. They're still at 576,000, so there is a way to go there, but it is a sign the job market showing some recovery.
Yeah, and then you have this retail sales report. The Commerce Department saying that retail sales jumped almost 10% last month, possibly driven by a lot of those COVID stimulus checks that went out to tens of millions of Americans. Sporting goods, clothing, and car parts and dealers were the sectors that saw the biggest jump. All of this sent the markets climbing, with the Dow above 34,000 for the first time today.
So we wanted to get some insight on these numbers. So let's bring in Mark Hamrick, Senior Economic Analyst for Bankrate.com. Thanks for coming back, Mark. Appreciate it.
Good to be with you, Kate.
I said you're our returning champion. It's been a while since we've had you on. It's great to get your insight because all of this can be confusing for lay people. But it really does tell the story of the last year, that more than 500,000 people filed for first-time unemployment claims last week, and we're celebrating that as good news for the jobs market. Under normal circumstances, that would be terrible. What kind of perspective can you give us on what we are to make of this jobs report?
Yeah, well said, Michael. First of all, you're right. Going into the pandemic, we were looking at numbers that were around 200,000 new jobless claims in a given week. And as you say, we were about 3 times that number. And basically, I'm jumping out of my chair going, wow, when I see that this morning. We also had some positive developments here in the state of New York, with a decline of nearly 12,000 to 56,000. So all these trends, I think, are moving in the right direction. We had a big hole to dig out of. Retail sales snapping back, with people actually returning to brick and mortar. There was a rather lame showing with respect to online sales here, but we had everything from bars and restaurants to sporting goods to clothing, automobile sales. So people are getting back out into public. They're venturing back to brick and mortar. And as you say, those federal stimulus or relief payments are also being put to work here.
Yeah, and with that retail report being some good news, there was kind of a caveat that people had just gotten the thousands of dollars in stimulus checks. So is this a temporary bump, do you think, or is this something that has signs of being sustainable?
Well, to see a 10% increase in a given month is not itself sustainable, but I do believe in the coming months, as the U.S. economy continues to improve, and that's the widespread expectation now, I think what we will see strength across a number of categories. Listen, we've got essentially the economy improving broadly. We do have these stimulus payments that are going to continue to come into the system. We have the child tax credit. That's going to begin in the summer. We don't know yet what is up the proverbial sleeve of elected officials in Washington. Let's assume that nothing else happens from here. The expectation this year is we could have growth in the United States of more than 6%. We've not seen that since the early 1980s. So as we see the broader economy improve, I absolutely think that more people get vaccinated, more people feel confident. We're going to see strength going forward.
Yeah, and you mentioned, just to kind of update our viewers on this, those child tax credits. Instead of something that you have to wait until you file your taxes to be able to do that, there are going to be millions and millions of families that are going to get direct payments. And I think this starts in July, right? That if you have a child, depending on their age, $200 or $250 or $300 a month will just be sent to you as a child tax credit. So that's something that, as you mentioned, will continue till the end of the year and could really be a bump for the economy. There is, though, the fact that a lot of these businesses that saw spending rise last month are ones you mentioned, restaurants and hospitality, really driven by the kind of restrictions that they're under, right? I mean, as restrictions are lifted, they're obviously going to be coming out of this. What are the prospects for the economy if we don't get these vaccinations under control and we can't continue to lift these restrictions? They only have about 30 seconds.
Right. Well, that's the worst case scenario. And I've said all along for the last 13 months, the solution for the economic downturn is essentially addressing the pandemic. So the supply is here. People are getting it. We need more people to get the vaccine so we can really get that herd immunity. But I do think that bars and restaurants and essentially all the sectors that have been hit hard will have the opportunity to bring most, if not all, of their workers back on, perhaps on through the end of the year. We could see an unemployment rate of 4.5% by the end of this year if we're lucky.
And we've been chatting with Mark Hamrick, the senior economic analyst for Bankrate.com. And while he's joining us from D.C., he's a Bills fan, and bless him, he's still a Sabres fan. We appreciate that, and we always love you coming on, Mark. Thanks for being here.
Great to see you, Kate and Michael. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, everybody, for watching. Remember to text us any questions or comments that you may have to 849-2200.